Today, a federal judge in Washington is set to hold an emergency hearing on whether Trump's top national security officials violated federal law by using a Signal group chat to discuss U.S. attack plans in Yemen. Now, the administration is being accused of flouting federal record-keeping laws by using the texting app that can be set to automatically delete messages.
Scrutiny over the Signal chat incident is also intensifying on Capitol Hill, with the top Republican and Democrat on a key committee now officially requesting an inspector general probe into what happened. And we now have some brand new CNN reporting on Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth facing doubts about his leadership from inside the Pentagon and in wider national security circles. Let's begin there with CNN special correspondent Jamie Gangel. Jamie, tell us what you're learning.
So, look, there were a lot of questions about Pete Hegseth when he was nominated. There was a lot of concern about his experience and his background. What we are hearing from inside the Pentagon, outside the Pentagon, national security officials, they're really raising greater and greater concern about his judgment, his demeanor, and his experience. And this Signal chat really is amplifying that, because even though National Security Advisor Mike Waltz set it up, the most startling things, and I really recommend people go to CNN.com and read the texts, we have them up there, came from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. And the details are highly sensitive. At one point, he writes, "This is when the first bombs will drop." So senior, intelligence and military officials are just pointing out again and again, writing things like this on a platform that is not secure is it's the cardinal rule at the Pentagon. You would never put this out before a combat operation. One quote from a former very senior intelligence official, quote, "The egregious actor here is Hegseth. He's in the bullseye now because he puts all this out on a Signal chat." The word that keeps coming up over and over again is amateur.
And this, those texts came hours before this operation actually was carried out in Yemen. And look, throughout all of this, Secretary Hegseth hasn't been hiding. He's been out and about. He's put out many public statements defending the actions of what happened in the Signal group. He seems to be projecting confidence through this.
Yes, he is certainly like President Donald Trump. He is forceful. But the reality is that if you think about former secretaries of defense and the normal process you go through, the deliberation, being forceful and doubling down on these things is not what these sources say makes a great Secretary of Defense. Sources called it reckless, hubris to put this kind of information on a Signal text chain. One said, quote, "He's a TV personality. A general officer makes a recommendation and he's like, yeah, go do it." Former Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin would never be like, yeah, go do it. He'd be like, we'll take it under consideration. Very different personalities from not just Lloyd Austin, but going back and looking at other Secretary of Defenses, we've never seen anything quite like it.
Yeah, a more serious demeanor is what you would expect. Jamie, thank you for the great insights. We really appreciate it. And with us now is retired Naval Commander Kirk Lippold. He was the commanding officer of the USS Cole when it was bombed while it was docked just off the coast of Yemen. He also wrote the book Front Burner, Al-Qaeda's Attack on the USS Cole. And it's so great, Commander, to have you here, because you've heard there's so much rhetoric going on about what has happened here, but it's not academic for you, the safety and the lives of American troops. So I'm very curious, from your perspective, as someone who's been through what you've been through, what concerns you most about the Signal chat when it comes to protecting service members?
I think, Brianna, the number one thing we have to look at is this was a clear violation of operational security. And while many in the administration and throughout those that participated in the group chat, whether it was the director of the CIA, the National Security Advisor, Secretary of Defense Hegseth, all of them argued that nothing classified was put out there. That may be true in a point of fact. However, comma, like anything else dealing with operational security, loose lips sink ships. And while each individual piece may not have been classified, the aggregate of what was put together and discussed on that chat in its whole would probably be classified and at a very high level.
Explain that, because I think people, they have a hard time with this. You know, like, is classified on a piece of paper stamped top secret? Is it information that would be in something that is stamped top secret and then that information is then put in another channel? It's a hard thing, I think, for folks to understand.
I think what a lot of Americans would need to understand is that intelligence created means that we ask people around the world to provide information to us that we then we get data. And from that data, we analyze it. And when we analyze it, we synthesize it, put it together. That's what creates intelligence. How we get that, what they call the sources and methods, all those put together determine the level of classification from confidential up to top secret, and then beyond that into compartmented information. When you pull all that together, and while those little individual pieces may not seem classified, over time, that's what allows our enemies to build out an understanding of how we put together a strike plan, how we put together a war plan. All those things together are what, if leaked, could endanger U.S. troops, Navy ships, etc.
I think in this modern day, we've become so used to the convenience of having a device in our hands, right? But when it comes to handling sensitive or classified information, there are other considerations besides convenience. And that sometimes means you need to be in a secure place, you need to be on something a little more clunky. Did this need to happen in something that was such a convenient way, but maybe insecure way? Did these folks need to be getting that information exactly when they got it?
I think they may have needed to get it when they got it. How they got it was absolutely wrong. I mean, clearly using something like Signal, and I don't care whether a previous administration or this administration has authorized its use. At the end of the day, clearly there's an issue with the Federal Records Act because Signal does not preserve those conversations. The question you have to go back and look at now, and I think an investigation is going to still unearth some of the facts, is was there a system in the U.S. government that was authorized for those kinds of discussions that could have been used? Did any of those people, while they may be high-level appointees, did they get an operational security brief once they were confirmed by the Senate, assumed their position, and started working? Did they really understand what was available to them, where it was available, and how, rather than doing that meeting via text on a handheld and doing it somewhere, should have been done in their office or in a facility that could have handled those conversations securely, preserve the records about it, even if it were classified, and then be able to let the American people know this is how this administration is working to safeguard U.S. national security interests around the world.
This isn't just about Yemen or the Houthis, right? This is about other foreign actors, foreign adversaries, even terrorist groups who may be looking at how these top officials conduct themselves. What do you think they've taken away from how they've been communicating that is of interest to American foes?
I think the main thing they're going to watch is how we do business, because how you handle classified information, how you run your daily routine, how your discussions go on a phone, which we know they try to tap, how we do things on unclassified networks. All those little things put together, oftentimes they'll insert themselves, as we know in the cyber world, they insert themselves and do nothing. They sit and watch and listen and learn. And I think what this is teaching us is that we cannot afford to use unclassified networks that may be secure. Maybe that entire conversation got dumped and nobody's ever going to know about it. That's not the point. The point is it was outside of a system that is normally certified by the National Security Agency as being secure enough to handle unclassified through top secret compartmented information discussions. And that's where this group should have held those talks.
Might be a great house. The foundation has to be solid, right? Or it doesn't matter.
Well, at this point, if DOGE has saved billions of dollars, here's a good application and point to use it on that would be helpful to the American people.
All right. Commander Lippold, thank you so much. Really appreciate your perspective and your service. Thank you.
Thank you.